God says this is an emergency, but not in the way you fear. It is an emergency in the way that heaven is trying to reach you quickly before you fall into another cycle of confusion, doubt, or unnecessary self-blame. God says the identity of the person who wants to harm you has been revealed in the spiritual realm, meaning their energy, their intention, and their shadow has been exposed, but not in a way that threatens your safety. You are safe. Nothing will go wrong with you. God says what is being exposed is not to frighten you, but to free you. God says you must open this message now because your spirit has been carrying questions for far too long. Questions you didn't say out loud. Questions no one heard. Questions even you were afraid to fully admit. But heaven heard them all. Heaven saw everything. Heaven saw the tears you wiped alone. The moments you felt betrayed without knowing why. The times you felt watched, judged, misunderstood, or quietly targeted by someone whose face you couldn't see, but whose energy lingered around you like a shadow. God says the shadow is lifting now. The identity is not a name in the way humans identify each other. It is a vibration, a pattern, a motive. Someone whose energy has been against you, someone whose intentions were disguised, someone who smiled from the front but resisted you from the back. God says the spiritual realm reveals the truth long before the physical realm understands it. And today, God reveals that the person who wanted to harm you was never powerful enough to succeed. God says your safety has been sealed, your steps have been protected, and your path has been ordered. Archangel Michael has been standing before you like an impenetrable shield, absorbing every whisper of negativity long before it could ever reach you. God says you must not fear what heaven has already defeated. The revelation of this identity is not to alarm you but to release you from the weight of sensing something without knowing what it was. God says you felt it, didn't you? The heaviness in moments where nothing bad was happening. The sudden anxiety when you were doing absolutely fine. The heart pressure that came from nowhere. The strange dreams that made no sense. The random thoughts of doubt that didn't belong to you. God says those sensations were never warnings of danger, they were signals that heaven was already working, already blocking, already canceling, already protecting. God says the identity being revealed is simply the truth that the spiritual enemy assigned to you was never a person you needed to fear, it was a force that had already failed. God says the identity is the one who could not break you. That is their name in the heavenly book. That is their spiritual identity. And that is the only identity you need to know. God says you are stepping into a season where your sensitivity is increasing. Not because danger is present, but because your spirit is elevating. You are being shifted into a higher spiritual frequency where you can sense intentions before actions, energies before words, motives before masks are dropped. God says this is not paranoia. This is divine discernment awakening. It is the gift many pray for but only few receive. And you are one of the few chosen. God says the only reason you felt like someone wanted to harm you is because your spirit was detecting what heaven was removing. You were sensing something that was already being pushed out. God says consider this the final alert, not a warning of danger, but a confirmation of deliverance. God says you must open your heart now because deeper truth is coming. The spiritual pressure around you has been building because you are close to a breakthrough that has frightened the forces that once tried to hold you back. God says those forces were never physical people, but sometimes they worked through the insecurities, jealousy, or hidden resentment of others. God says the one whose energy was against you was someone who could not accept your rise, could not celebrate your healing, could not stand your strength, and could not understand why God kept uplifting you despite everything thrown your way. But God says their energy has been neutralized. Their influence has been dismantled. Their access has been revoked. And their spiritual permission to disturb your peace has been permanently removed. God says you are entering a protected season, a sealed season, a covered season. Nothing will go wrong with you. Nothing can break you. Nothing can harm you. Nothing can interrupt the blessings assigned to your name. God says you must trust Him because your life is shifting faster than your mind can comprehend. You are being prepared for something greater, something unexpected, something heaven sent. God says your name has been called in the spiritual realm for elevation, and that is why you have felt pressure, heaviness, restlessness, and strange timing all around you lately. God says these were not signs of danger, they were contractions of spiritual birth. You are being positioned for a blessing that requires you to stand alone for a brief moment so heaven can rearrange the energies around you. God says you are safe even when you feel uncertain. You are protected even when you feel exposed. You are guarded even when you feel vulnerable. Heaven has never left your side. Archangel Michael has never left your doorway. God says every moment you thought something bad was going to happen was actually the moment something sacred was unfolding behind the scenes. God says you must know this. Your intuition has been screaming not because danger is near but because breakthrough is near. Every spiritual attack that tried to reach you failed. Every negative intention that someone held against you dissolved before it arrived. Every silent resentment someone directed at you returned to them without touching you. God says the identity of the person who wanted to harm you was not given to you in human form because heaven protected you from the emotional burden of seeing their face. God says you don't need to know the earthly identity. Heaven has already handled the spiritual identity. God says it was the one who doubted you. The one who underestimated you. The one who envied the favor on your life. The one who smiled but carried questions about your worth. The one who pretended to support you but secretly hoped you would fail. God says their intention could not manifest because your destiny does not bow to the intentions of others. God says now that the exposure is complete, your spirit will feel lighter. Your nights will feel calmer. Your mornings will feel brighter. Your dreams will feel clearer. Your thoughts will feel peaceful. God says you will soon notice that the heaviness you used to feel for no reason is disappearing. The anxiety that rose out of nowhere is fading. The emotional storms that made no sense are calming. God says this is because the energy that was pressing against you spiritually has now been removed completely. You will feel the shift starting today. You will feel the air around you changing. You will feel your heart settling. You will feel your mind clearing. God says your spirit is returning to alignment. God says you must not fear the word harm. Nothing will harm you. Nothing can harm you. Nothing is strong enough to override the divine protection that surrounds your life. God says your story is covered. Your journey is blessed. Your steps are ordered. Your path is secured. Your angels are active. Your destiny is protected. Heaven is fighting for you, even in moments you do not realize it. God says you must trust Him because the season you are walking into requires deep faith. You are not entering danger, you are entering destiny. You are not entering fear, you are entering fulfillment. You are not entering darkness, you are entering revelation. God says you are safe, you are chosen, you are guarded, and you are loved. God says trust Him and pray to Him. Everything will be okay. Nothing will go wrong with you. The emergency is not about danger, it is about timing. God says this message had to reach you now because you are crossing into a new spiritual dimension where clarity will replace confusion, peace will replace fear, and discernment will replace uncertainty. God says He is with you, right now, in this very moment, surrounding you with light, covering you with grace, and lifting you higher than the intentions of anyone who ever doubted you. God says you are free. God says you are safe. God says it is done. God says this is an emergency, and I am guiding you to read every word slowly because the truth you have been waiting for is finally being revealed. There are moments in a person's life when heaven does not whisper but speaks loudly, firmly, directly, and with divine certainty, and this message has been placed in front of you because there is a reason, a purpose, a protection, and a very serious revelation that is unfolding around you at this very moment. God says that the identity of the person who has tried to harm you, block you, delay you, confuse you, weaken you, and keep you from your destiny has now been uncovered. Their name has been spoken in the courts of heaven, their intentions exposed, their plans reversed, and their darkness dragged into the light. God says the shield over your life has become brighter, thicker, stronger, and more powerful than ever. And no matter what storms come, you are safe and protected. But you must not skip this. You must read it fully, because the truth is being delivered to you now exactly when you need it. God says you have been watched by heaven for a long time. Every tear you shed, every night you felt alone, every moment you questioned why certain people hurt you, why certain situations fell apart, why certain relationships collapsed, why certain opportunities disappeared, and why certain individuals turned against you. All of it has been part of a divine unfolding that leads to this moment. God says you have not been abandoned, you have not been betrayed by heaven, and you have not been forgotten. Instead, you were being protected from something you could not see. There is someone whose name you once trusted, someone who smiled in your face but carried another intention in their heart. God says the time has come for the truth to rise, because you have entered a season where lies can no longer survive, betrayal can no longer hide, and false intentions can no longer cloak themselves in shadows. God says the identity of the person who wants to harm you is not just a name, it is a spiritual reality that heaven has been monitoring for a long time. Their name has reached the ears of Archangel Michael, who has been standing guard over you, sword drawn, wings wide, prepared to cut down every attempt made against your destiny. God says the attempts they made did not work, and they will never work, because divine protection has already been activated around you. Their name echoes in the spiritual world because their intentions have been exposed. They tried to send negativity toward you. They tried to speak ill of you. They tried to block your blessings through jealousy, envy, manipulation, or deceit. But God says enough is enough. No more interference. No more hidden plans. No more silent harm. God says it is an emergency because you are stepping into a new season, and this new season cannot include the weight of the person who wanted to see you fall. God says you have been lifted away from their reach. You have been elevated above their grasp. You have been protected from their intentions. Even when you didn't know who was against you, heaven knew, and heaven acted. God says that the person's name has been revealed in heaven, and although God will not let evil triumph, He is showing you the spiritual truth so you understand why certain things happened the way they did. God says this person used your kindness as an opportunity, your love as a tool, your trust as an entry point. They thought you would never see through them, and they believed their actions would remain hidden. But God says your spiritual vision is opening now. The veil is lifting. Your intuition is rising. You will soon sense exactly who this person is. Their energy will feel heavy, their presence uncomfortable, their words unstable, and your spirit will automatically recognize the truth. God says that you must trust your inner warnings because those warnings are not coming from fear, they are coming from the divine protection around you. God says that when you suddenly feel distant from someone, when your heart becomes quiet around them, when your soul no longer aligns with them, it is because heaven is pulling you away before harm can touch you. God says you have been feeling this pull recently, without knowing why. You felt someone's energy shifting, someone's tone becoming strange, someone's behavior becoming inconsistent, and this is not a coincidence. This is spiritual confirmation. God says that the person tried to disturb your peace because they saw that you were becoming stronger. They attempted to shake your confidence because they felt threatened by your rising destiny. They sent negativity toward your name because they feared your potential. They tried to use manipulation or emotional pressure because they wanted to keep you small while pretending to support you. But God says the truth is rising now, and no lie can survive when God decides to expose it. God says you are being surrounded by light so powerful that every dark intention directed toward you is dissolving before it reaches your life. Your path is being cleared. Your blessings are being secured. Your heart is being restored. Your spirit is being strengthened. Every attempt that was made behind your back is returning to sender with no harm to you, and with divine justice activated, God says you are safe, and nothing will go wrong with you. You have been chosen, you have been protected, and you have been watched over with divine precision. God says that what is meant for you is coming, and the harm that was intended for you is gone. You are free from the energy that tried to cling to you. You are rising above every attempt that was made in silence. You are walking into a season where truth takes center stage and falsehoods crumble. God says the name of the person who wanted to harm you was revealed so that you will finally understand why your path took certain turns. There were moments when you felt betrayed without explanation. There were moments when you felt energy shift without understanding why. There were moments when someone's behavior confused you. God says those moments were spiritual alerts. You were being shown glimpses of the truth even before this message arrived. Heaven was trying to get your attention. Your soul was trying to warn you. And now the full revelation is unfolding. God says, do not fear. Do not panic. Do not worry. You are protected beyond what you can imagine. You have angelic forces around you, watching every step you take, blocking every plan made against you, lifting you out of every trap meant to harm you. God says the person's name does not hold power anymore because heaven has stripped that power away. Their influence is gone. Their spiritual access to your life has been denied. Their intentions have been stopped. God says this message is being delivered urgently because if you missed it, you would continue doubting yourself, questioning your intuition, and wondering why certain emotions have been rising within you. God says He wants you to trust the feelings that have been guiding you. When your soul pulls away from someone, that is not random. When your energy shifts around someone, that is not confusion. When something inside you whispers that something is off, that is divine protection speaking. God says you are entering a season where nothing hidden can remain hidden. Every deception around you is being uncovered. Every fake intention is being exposed. Every masked person is being revealed. You will see clearly. You will understand deeply. You will recognize truth instantly. God says you must not skip this moment because something important is coming next. A blessing that was delayed is about to enter your life. A door that was blocked is about to open. A miracle that was held back is being released. And this release requires your energy to be clean, protected, and free from the influence of the person who wanted to harm you. God says you are safe. God says no harm will touch you. God says that everything planned against you has already failed. You are rising now. You are stepping into your divine timeline. You are walking into the season meant for you. And the person whose name was revealed in heaven has no place in your life anymore. God says trust Him. Trust the protection. Trust the timing. Trust the feeling inside you that is warning you. You are being guided every moment, and heaven is standing with you. God says, when you open this message, something in the unseen world shifted instantly. A curtain that was tightly closed has been pulled back by divine hands. You may not realize what is happening around you in the physical world, but in the spiritual world, the truth is unfolding faster than ever. God has been watching you in silence, listening to every prayer, every tear, every doubt you whispered in the night when you thought no one was listening. There are things happening around you that you cannot see, and today God says it's an emergency. Not to scare you, not to break you, but to awaken you. You are being protected from a plan that was never meant to succeed, and heaven has just revealed something important. Before anything reaches you, God reveals the identity of the one whose intentions were never pure toward you. This is not to bring fear, it is to bring clarity. God says you are safe because He stepped in before things went too far. The darkness thought it could touch you, but it forgot that you are covered by a divine shield that cannot be broken. God says, listen carefully because the spiritual truth being given to you today is something only you were meant to see. No one else should hear this, because no one else carries the destiny you carry. Heaven is not warning you to frighten you, it is informing you because you are important. Too important to ignore. Too important to leave in confusion. Too important to let your spirit wander without direction. God says the person who wanted to harm you did not attack you physically. Instead, they attacked your peace, your destiny, your name, your path, your future. They thought if they could weaken your confidence, dim your light, break your spirit, then they could win. But God stepped in and stopped everything before it could touch you. Even the thought of you being harmed never reached heaven's approval. You need to understand that nothing was allowed to come near you because angels have been surrounding you like guards around a royal crown. God says there is someone whose intentions toward you have been hidden behind smiles, conversations, or silence. The person who wanted to harm you did not hate you, they envied you. They envied your resilience, your inner strength, your ability to rise again and again even when you had no support. Your strength intimidates them, your spirit exposes them, and your destiny threatens them. They pretended to be neutral, but their heart carried quiet jealousy. What they wished for you was nothing compared to what God has planned for you. And heaven has now exposed them, not for you to fight them. Not for you to confront them, but for you to detach your energy from anything or anyone not aligned with your divine path. God says the identity of this person is not being revealed to scare you but to guide you. The one who intended harm is not someone you expect. God says this is an emergency. And the reason you are reading this right now is because heaven has been pushing this message toward you for hours, waiting for the exact moment when your heart would be open enough to receive it. God says you have been sensing something strange around you, a kind of quiet tension in the air, a subtle feeling that something unseen is moving, shifting, revealing itself, and you couldn't explain why your spirit suddenly felt more alert than usual. You thought it was just your imagination, but God says, no, my child, it was the warning of heaven preparing your heart. And now, finally, the truth that was kept hidden from you for so long is reaching you, because the time has come for exposure, protection, and divine intervention. God says the identity of the person who carried hidden intentions toward you has now been revealed in the spiritual realm, and you are not to panic, not to fear, not to shrink back, because you are covered, shielded, and watched over by a power greater than anything on earth. God says you must understand something very important. Many times the danger comes not from those who shout loudly, but from those who pretend to walk quietly beside you. It does not always come from enemies wearing dark faces, but often from those who smile, those who pretend to support you, those who act like they understand you. God says the danger comes in disguises that look innocent, and that is why you were unable to see it clearly before. You felt something was wrong but you couldn't identify it. You felt a shift in someone's behavior but you dismissed it, because you are a person who loves deeply, trusts fully, and forgives quickly. God says that is why I am stepping in for you. That is why I am sending this message. That is why the urgency is so strong. Because you were not meant to carry this alone, and you were not meant to discover this too late. God says the person who carried harmful intentions toward you was someone who thought you were too soft, too kind, too gentle to notice their hidden plans. They assumed you were blind. They assumed you were not protected. They assumed you were walking alone. But they did not know who you truly belong to. They did not know that heaven watches over you day and night. They did not know that your heart is connected to a divine source that sees into shadows no human eyes can see. God says heaven has been observing everything this person said, everything they whispered behind your back, everything they tried to create in the silence of their thoughts. And for a long time, God allowed you to walk without knowing. Because sometimes the exposure must happen at the right moment so that the enemy's plan collapses completely. God says the identity of this person is not to frighten you, but to awaken you. Not to bring panic, but to bring clarity. Not to make you suspect everyone, but to help you understand that the spiritual realm has been moving on your behalf long before you realized anything was happening. God says the person is someone who once acted close to you, someone who acted like they cared, someone who pretended to understand your pain, but inside they carried jealousy, resentment, and bitterness. They saw your light and felt overshadowed. They saw your blessings and felt threatened. They saw your potential and felt insecure. God says their intentions were not born from power, but from weakness. They wanted to harm you not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, energetically, by draining you, confusing you, distracting you, and trying to pull you off the path God created for you. God says I am revealing this to you because you need to know you are not being paranoid. You need to know your intuition was right. You need to know that I have seen everything, every thought you had, every feeling that disturbed your heart, every moment you felt uneasy without understanding why. God says your spirit was picking up signals that your mind couldn't translate. You sensed a shift because heaven was whispering to your soul that something hidden was moving around you. And now the truth is laid bare. The person was someone who smiled at you but held distrust in their heart, someone who acted helpful but secretly wished you would fail, someone who watched you rise and could not accept it. But God says this now with absolute authority: their intentions cannot touch you anymore. God says the reason this is an emergency is not because they have the power to harm you, but because you have reached the moment where your destiny is taking a major turn. The path ahead of you is powerful, transformative, full of blessings, and heaven does not want anything blocking your steps. God says this exposure had to happen now, because the next chapter of your life requires you to be spiritually aware, emotionally stable, and fully aligned with divine direction. You cannot carry people who drain your energy into the season of blessings that is coming. You cannot take confusion into a chapter that requires clarity. You cannot bring toxic attachments into a place built for peace, growth, and abundance. God says this is why I told you to open this quickly. This is why the message reached you at the perfect time. This is why your heart felt drawn to read this even if you didn't understand why. Heaven is preparing you. God says you should not fear the identity of this person. You should not panic. You should not overthink. Instead, you should understand how deeply you are loved, how divinely protected you are, how closely heaven has been walking beside you. God says if you only knew how many times I shielded you from situations you didn't even see coming, you would fall to your knees in gratitude. If you knew how many traps failed because I blocked them, how many conversations were stopped because I intervened, how many negative intentions dissolved before they reached you, you would understand the fullness of my protection. God says this person's plan has already failed. Their intentions have already been exposed. Their energy has already been disconnected from your life. The danger is gone. The threat is powerless. The situation is closed. The only reason I am revealing this now is because you deserve the truth. And because the truth will strengthen your spiritual awareness, God says you are moving into a season where your intuition will grow sharper, your spiritual eyes will open wider, and your emotional strength will increase. The reason heaven is training your awareness is because the blessings coming to you are bigger than anything you have ever experienced. God says you are stepping into a chapter where your gifts, your heart, your purpose, and your destiny will align in ways that will shock even you. That is why spiritual protection has increased around you. That is why divine messages have been reaching you more often. That is why the urgency in heavenly communication has grown stronger. You are not the same person you were 1 year ago. You have grown. You have matured. You have survived battles that should have broken you. You have walked through fire but came out refined. You have been tested emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and every test has prepared you for the moment you are entering now. God says the identity of the person who wanted to harm you spiritually was known in heaven long before you knew it in your heart. And the reason it took this long for exposure is because timing matters. God says sometimes I allow people to reveal themselves slowly so that the truth becomes undeniable. Sometimes I allow their masks to slip little by little until you can no longer ignore what your spirit already knows. And sometimes I allow a person to stay long enough so that you learn the lesson but leave early enough so that you are not damaged. God says you were protected even when you didn't know you needed protection. You were covered even when you didn't know you were in danger. You were safe even when you felt confused. I have never left you. God says you must understand that the moment you finish reading this message, your energy will shift. Your spirit will feel lighter. Your heart will feel calmer. The confusion that has been surrounding you will dissolve. You will begin to see people more clearly. You will begin to understand situations that once made no sense. You will be able to hear your inner guidance more strongly. God says clarity is coming. Truth is coming. Peace is coming. Strength is coming. And none of this is accidental. It is the result of divine timing. God says, I order you to trust me now. Do not skip this message emotionally. Let it sink into your heart. Let your spirit absorb it. You are not in danger. You are not alone. Nothing will go wrong with you. You are surrounded by heavenly protection. You are guided, guarded, and deeply loved. God says the person who carried harmful intentions cannot touch your destiny, cannot interfere with your blessings, cannot stand in the way of your purpose. Heaven has removed them from your path. Your future is safe. God says now take a deep breath and release every fear. Release every worry. Release every uncertainty. You are stepping into a new spiritual chapter, and I am walking beside you with every step you take. Trust me. Pray to me. Stay close to me. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. And from this moment on, nothing and no one can stop what heaven has already planned for you. God says this is an emergency, and even as these words come toward you, heaven leans closer because something around you has shifted in a way you have not yet seen with your physical eyes. God says the identity of the person who wants to harm you has been revealed in the spiritual realm, and although I will not give you a human name, God is giving you the truth behind the energy that has been trying to disturb your life. This is not someone you need to fear, because God is already removing their power, already blocking their path, and already exposing every hidden intention that was meant to break your spirit. God says He is ordering you to open this message before it is too late, because spiritual timing matters. If you delay, you may miss the clarity, the protection, the shift, the divine interception that heaven is preparing at this exact moment for you. And God says that He wants your heart awake, not anxious, not panicked, but aware. God says you are safe, nothing will go wrong with you, because you belong to Him, and He will not allow darkness to win. God says the one who wanted to harm you never truly had the power to touch you. Their strength was illusions, their plans were shadows, and their voice was filled with insecurity and jealousy, not authority. God reveals that the identity of this person is not their name, not their face, not their gender, but the spirit behind them, the spirit of envy, the spirit of confusion, the spirit of manipulation, the spirit of deception. This is the identity God exposes today. This is the presence that tried to come close to your life and interfere with your peace, but God says, I am calling this out and shutting it down completely. You will not fall. You will not lose. You will not be defeated. You will not be touched. God has spoken, and heaven does not contradict His word. God says this message reached you at the exact second He intended, because moments before this, someone's thoughts toward you turned darker than you realize. But God intercepted those thoughts and turned them into smoke before they could transform into actions. God says the person who was trying to send harm toward you is spiritually exposed, stripped of their influence, and held back by divine force. They cannot approach you. They cannot enter your space. They cannot whisper against you. Their intentions crumble the moment they try to rise. God says He is commanding you to trust Him, because what He blocked for you would have terrified you if He had allowed you to see it. But He did not bring fear to your heart. He brought protection, which always works silently before it works visibly. God says that you must understand something important. Every time someone tries to harm you, it is not a coincidence that you feel heavy, tired, distracted, or suddenly pulled toward prayer. That sensation is spiritual warfare that your soul detects before your eyes can see it. God says the reason you found this message right now is because your spirit has been warning you for days, whispering, nudging, pulling you toward divine communication. He says He knows how much you have suffered, how much you have carried alone, how many times you remained silent even when your heart was hurting. He says He knows that you didn't deserve betrayal, didn't deserve manipulation, didn't deserve the lies that were spoken behind closed doors. God says that the identity of the one who wanted to harm you is connected to the past, connected to the pain you healed from, connected to the jealousy that someone has held toward you for far too long. But now, heaven says enough. It ends now. It ends today. It ends with this message. God says that the one who tried to harm you thrives on your confusion. They hoped you would doubt yourself, weaken yourself, question yourself, or sabotage yourself. They wanted your spirit tired. They wanted your mind heavy. But God says He is now cutting the cord that allowed their energy to influence you. God says their plans are collapsing. Their intentions are dissolving, and whatever they spoke negatively about you is returning to them multiplied so that they learn not to touch the anointed. God says He protects you not because you are perfect but because you are chosen, because you have a purpose bigger than your fears, because you carry a heart that refuses to turn dark even after all the pain you've been through. God says you have no idea how many times you were saved without knowing it. Because He intervenes quietly. He blocks silently. He fights battles in places you have never seen. God says that when the identity of someone with bad intentions toward you is revealed, it is not to scare you but to awaken you. He wants you to rise in your spiritual awareness and realize your life is not ordinary. The enemy would not attack someone without a divine calling. God says the intensity of the attack reveals the size of the blessing on its way to you. God says, listen carefully, because this part is crucial. The person who wanted to harm you was counting on your silence. They believed you would never speak up, never defend your energy, never protect your spirit, never separate from what drains you. They expected you to stay the same. But God says He is lifting you into a version of yourself that they cannot approach. He is elevating your mindset, your intuition, your strength. God says you are being moved into a place spiritually where the people who tried to hurt you will not even be able to recognize you anymore. They will not have access to your peace, your progress, your blessings, or your future. God says you must open your eyes now, not tomorrow, not later, because spiritual timing is everything. If you ignore this message, you may remain connected to energy that God is trying to pull away from you. If you ignore this message, you may keep tolerating behaviors that God has already rejected. If you ignore this message, you may remain in situations that drain you more than you realize. But God says if you listen, if you trust, if you open your spirit and allow Him to lead you, everything that was meant to harm you will become your protection story, your testimony, your elevation.